I was gone for 5 days. A storm ripped through the next county, and a contractor buddy asked me to help board up storefronts and frame a collapsed porch. I'm Eli Navarro, restoration carpenter, 30. I name my chisels, keep bent nails in a jar, and I built every tool in my garage one paycheck at a time. 5 days later, I rolled back into town in my battered work truck, humming about finally buying a dust collector, when I turned into my driveway and braked so hard the bag of jerky on the seat hit the dashboard. The garage door was up. The garage was air. Not empty like. We cleaned. Empty like. We robbed a museum and took the walls. The pegboard hung there like a skeleton that forgot its muscles. My table saw, gone. The vintage planes, gone. The drawers were open, stupid and toothless. Even the jar of bent nails, gone. Who steals a jar of failures? I staggered forward. Mom's minivan sat half on my lawn like it had pulled up, coughed, and died. Inside the house, the smell of coffee and cheap lavender slapped me, Mom's brand of surprise we helped. Rick, my stepfather, stood at the sink smiling like a man who had just discovered he could whistle. Eli! You're home early, Mom sang. We did you such a favor. I walked back to the garage, half expecting a TV crew to yell, prank? Nobody yelled. The pegboard stayed a skeleton. We cleared out all those old tools. Mom said, proud as a parade. You were hoarding. It's not healthy. I am a carpenter, I said carefully, like teaching math to a cat. Rick patted my shoulder. Now you'll have space to park a real car someday. What real car? I asked, staring at the dust print where my jointer used to be. Surprise! Mom clapped. We had a yard sale. Rick's sister's church helped. People were thrilled to take it off your hands. And we used the money to help your cousin Brandon. He's starting his content journey. He needed a camera. I closed my eyes and pictured years of Saturdays. 16, scraping paint in July. Buying tools one by one with paychecks that smelled like fryer oil. My grandpa showed me how a sharp plane sings and said, don't rush. Wood remembers. I opened my eyes and the pegboard stared back like it remembered too. How much? I asked. Grief wants numbers. Mom beamed. 2,000. Isn't that amazing? I made a sound that started as a laugh and ended as a cough that had seen a ghost. The jointer alone was worth more than that. The planes could have paid a semester. Rick shrugged, uneasy. A lot of it was old. So am I, Rick, I said. But if you sell me for $2,000, please include batteries. Silence rippled. Mom's smile thinned. We thought you'd thank us. You're always saying money's tight. Money is tight, I said, heat climbing my neck. That's why I bought tools instead of vacations. Tools make money. She blinked. Well, you can always buy more. I looked at the bare garage one last time. The empty hooks felt like pointing fingers. I wanted to scream. Instead, I texted 2 people, my landlord, to confirm I could switch the locks, and my friend Rosa, because she's the only person who says grain direction, like a love language. Rosa called immediately. What happened? They held a yard sale with my career, I said. My voice sounded younger than I felt. She swore without repeating a word. Come over. I still have your old toolbox you left in my trunk. The toolbox was a fossil of my beginning, rust, misfit screwdrivers, a tape measure you had to squint at. Yeah, I said. I'm starting over. Mom hovered in the doorway, arms folded. Don't be dramatic, Eli. Family helps family. I met her eyes. Then you'll understand when I send you the invoice. For what? For replacing every single thing you sold. I said, voice steady now. Plus interest. For every screw. She laughed. I didn't. Wood remembers. So do I. I didn't slam a door. I collected my keys, shut the garage like you close a casket, and drove to Rosa's. Her duplex smelled like lemon oil. She handed me a dented metal toolbox I'd forgotten I once loved. Inside, a hammer with electrical tape for a grip, 2 screwdrivers that had seen war, a square that was barely a rhombus, and a tape measure that quit at 9 feet because 10 was apparently too ambitious. "I'm sorry," she said, hugging me hard enough to pop a rib. "Also, I brought empanadas because grief is a carb." I laughed for real. Grandpa would approve. We set the toolbox on her table. I opened my notes app and started a list titled Theft, but Make It Family. Line by line I typed every tool I remembered: Powermatic 54A jointer, DeWalt DW745 table saw, Lie-Nielsen No. 4 smoother, Bosch router, Makita drill set, clamps, so many clamps, squares, jigs, bits, chisels that still smelled like camellia oil. The list felt like a roll call for friends who hadn't shown up to the reunion. Rosa watched. "You going to the police?" "I am," I said. "Even if they shrug at yard sale by family, I want a report number." Officer Salazar didn't shrug. She asked for photos, receipts, and serials. "Know any buyers?" "Church folks and strangers," I said. Rick negotiated. "I wasn't invited to my own liquidation." "It's messy when it's family," she said. "But property is property. Gather proof. Some buyers will return things. Some won't." On the way home, I changed the locks. Boundary number 1. Nobody enters my house without my face present. I texted Mom the new rule. She replied with a paragraph about respect and how I'd embarrassed her by storming off. I responded with a PDF draft titled Invoice_1. 0. The header read, replacement fee, plus interest for every screw. Underneath, a list, itemized, retail price and fair use value. I added a column for sentimental loss, then deleted it because grief doesn't fit in cells. That night, I dug out Grandpa's cigar box, where I kept his notes. His blocky handwriting. "You can fix almost anything with patience, sharp steel, and listening." I held the paper under my nose and smelled cedar and tobacco, and every Saturday he spent beside me. My throat tried to close. I opened it with a laugh because the last line said, "Also WD-40. I posted in the neighborhood group. "My family sold my tools without consent. If you bought from 416 Pine on Saturday, I'll buy back at what you paid, cookies included." Linda from 2 blocks over messaged within minutes. "I thought it was weird the chisels were $5. Come get them. Keep your money. I'll take cookies." I biked over with a Tupperware and left with 4 gouges and a jar of bent nails. "You kept the bent nails?" I asked. "They felt personal," she said. "Back in my empty garage, I made a small altar on the workbench. The gouges, the jar, Grandpa's note." I taped the invoice draft to the pegboard, dead center. The blank around it looked like a museum plaque for a missing exhibit. Brandon posted that night, unboxing a camera with the enthusiasm of a man who'd discovered light yesterday. "New era, baby! Smash that follow!" His reflection winked in the lens, a lens my planes had bought. I typed, then deleted. "If you need a tripod, try the one I call Conscience." Rosa called. "Want company?" "No," I said, staring at the invoice. "Want accountability. Tomorrow I start buying back my work life, 1 clamp at a time." And I sent Mom a number. "What number?" "The kind that makes her say we didn't mean it like that," I said. "Plus 6% annual, compounding since the day they set up the card table on my driveway." Rosa whistled. "For every screw?" "For every screw," I said, and the pegboard felt a little less like a skeleton and a little more like a blueprint. I drafted the invoice like I frame a wall, square, level, built to hold weight. Subtotal. Tax. Restocking. Title. Replacement fee, plus interest for every screw. Footnote. Interest 6% annually from date of unauthorized transfer. Police report number in the top right. Mom called 6 minutes after it hit her inbox. "Eli, sweetheart," she said. "We didn't steal, we helped. Family helps family." "Correct," I said. "Help by paying this by Friday." "Pay?" She made it sound French. "We don't have funds. And Rick says you can't bill your mother. Rick also says magnets are sorcery. The word is conversion. You converted my property. The report number is at the top. Silence, then the wounded sigh. After everything we've done for you. You sold everything you'd done for me, I said. Including the chisels Grandpa taught me with. While we spoke, Rosa texted a screenshot, marketplace listing for a vintage Lie-Nielsen smoothing plane, $60 OBO, pick up at St. Andrew's Church. The thumb-worn tote was my thumb. My heart did a dumb deer hop. I've got to go. I told Mom. Your church is flipping my life. In St. Andrew's gym air smelled like coffee and hymnals. The same folding tables from the yard sale made a square. At Antiques, a man with a mustache hovered over my plane. 60 firm. It's for missions. I showed a photo, me holding that number for last Christmas, shavings curling like ribbon. I showed the report number. I'll pay the 60 and donate 40. But it goes home with me. He studied the scar on the tote, then nodded. We can do that. Back home, I set the plane on my bare bench like a rescued cat and wrote a new list, minimum viable shop. A miter saw. A bench rebuild. Clamps, always clamps. Dust mask filters because allergies are eternal. I booked few jobs I could do with borrowed gear, trim, hinges, drawer slides. Every check went into a tool resurrection envelope in the freezer behind the peas because no thief ever says, check the kale. Brandon posted a video called, Hustle Culture is a Mindset. Bold from a man whose hustle was pawning my past. In the comments he bragged about liquidating the old to invest in the new. I screenshotted it and filed it under evidence, next to receipts and a photo of Rick grinning beside the driveway sign. 3 neighbors returned things that week. A retired teacher handed over a box labeled Weird Clamps. A teenager gave back my router, face red. Mom thought it was a blender. Each return felt like a plank back in the floor. Rosa made me a sign. This space has been 3 days without a helpful family intervention. We reset it to 0 when Mom came by to ask if I'd toned down the police thing. Sure, I said. As soon as you tone up the payment thing. Rick texted a paragraph about blood and scenes and grandstanding. I replied with a payment plan, 12 months, 0% if they started within 30 days. I am petty, not cruel. Friday came. No payment. I mailed a certified demand letter, copies to Mom, Rick, and the church. I wasn't chasing a crusade. I wanted a receipt. Saturday night, Mom called again, voice small. Can we talk? The church offered the fellowship room. I made coffee cake. Neutral ground, I said. Fine. Bring your checkbook. Bring Brandon. Bring anything you still have. I'll bring my folder. Your folder? Receipts, screenshots, the report number, and an itemized list. I said. Plus interest. For every screw. Sunday, I walked into St. Andrew's with Rosa at my side like a lawyer with earrings. The yard sale tables were arranged in a circle, and in the middle someone had set my jar of bent nails like a centerpiece. Mom smiled too brightly. Rick folded his arms. Brandon lifted his phone. Family meeting. Until I said, turn it off or I'll invoice you for footage rights. He turned it off. I opened my folder. The room went quiet, the way rooms get when the air is about to change. St. Andrew's Fellowship room smelled like burned coffee. Crochet verses. Love is patient. Watched while Mom arranged napkins. I set my folder on the table. Rosa took notes. Deacon Miller, the mustache from Antiques, had a clipboard. Brandon slouched in a hoodie. Thanks for coming, Mom began in her customer service voice. We didn't realize those tools were special. They're how I pay rent, I said. Also Grandpa's. Rick folded his arms. We cleared clutter. You're welcome. I slid out the top sheet, an itemized invoice with serials and the police report number. Restitution total is on line 48. Replacement value, loss of use, and 6% interest from the day the church put price tags on my life. Brandon squinted. Plus interest for every screw, is that a joke? It's math, I said. You sold my screws individually. Arithmetic gets to be petty back. Mom pressed a napkin. We didn't pocket the money. It went to Brandon's dream. Then Brandon can help pay it back, I said. Deacon Miller cleared his throat. We regret participating without verifying ownership. We'll announce and contact buyers. He pushed a small box toward me. Inside, my marking gauge and, glory, my dovetail saw. These were left after the sale. The handle fit my hand like a handshake with an old friend. Thank you? Rick scoffed. He's billing his mother? We fed you, housed you. And taught me to build everything myself, I said. I'm not billing for childhood. I'm billing for Saturday. Rosa slid the plan forward. Option A, lump sum in 30 days, 10% courtesy discount. Option B, 12 payments, 0 interest if on time. Option C, help retrieve items, balance adjusts down. Mom blinked. This is so formal. So was the yard sale, I said. She turned to Deacon Miller. Can't the church cover it? He winced. We can help with outreach, not liability. Mom tried again. It was an accident. Let's hug and move forward. Moving forward involves moving money forward, I said. Extortion, Rick muttered. Restitution, Rosa said, cheerful as a knife. Brandon perked up. What if we collab? Video, my family sold my shop, what I learned. Title your next one, I gave back what I took, I said. He deflated. I faced Mom. When Dad died, Grandpa kept me in the shop so I could breathe. Those tools were a language. When you sold them, it felt like you translated my life without asking. Her eyes went watery. Then she said, We just wanted you to have room for a car. I slid a pen across. Sign that you received the demand letter. Deacon Miller signed as a witness and promised an announcement on Sunday. I'll refund buyers out of whatever comes in, plus cookies, I said. Mom toyed with her necklace. Could we pay some in work? You could fix our porch. At my posted rate, I said, sliding over my terms. Family doesn't get discounts anymore. Family gets boundaries. I stood. Deadline is 30 days. Interest starts today. For every screw. In the hallway, the custodian, Ms. Darlene, flagged me. You the young man got his shop sold? That's me. She opened a storage closet. Under him sat a heavy old woodworking bench with a vice big as a handshake. Donated years ago. Nobody uses it. It's yours if you'll haul it. I ran a hand over the scarred top. Ma'am, I said, throat tight. You just gave me a spine. Rosa and I slid it into the truck. As we cinched straps, my phone pinged, a text from an unknown number. I bought a DeWalt table saw from your stepdad. Didn't feel right. Can you pick it up? Full return not needed. We laughed. Hope is contagious. Back home, we muscled the bench into the garage. I set the dovetail saw on top, then Grandpa's note against the wall. The emptiness didn't feel like a wound anymore. It felt like a blueprint. I reset Rosa's sign to "One day without a helpful family intervention," and wrote in red across the invoice, "Day 0 complete." Two things rebuilt my life that summer: a bench with a vice the size of a handshake and a stranger's guilty conscience. The text about the DeWalt saw led me to a blue bungalow. A retired paramedic named Hank opened the door. Bought it because the price was silly, he said. Got it home and felt worse. Your cousin said you didn't need it. He wheeled the saw out like a patient. I tried to pay him what he'd spent plus a thank you. He waved me off. I've got a fence gate that sags. Square that. I squared the gate until it latched with a click that sounded like self-respect. Hank pressed a tin of cookies into my hands. Call if you need a bandage or a coffee. I made a ritual of the returns. Each tool got a quick welcome, then a place on the pegboard. The freezer envelope fattened behind the peas. When it hit a number that felt like a step, I bought a dust collector like a man graduating from breathing sawdust to just dating it. Work found me. I trimmed doors, built built-ins, and straightened stairs that had given up on geometry. Rosa designed logo stickers that said Navarro Woodworks in block letters. I made rules. I stop at 6, I don't answer. Got a quick favor? With free labor, and I only cry over wood movement if it's poetic. Mom never paid. Week 1. We're figuring it out. Week 4. Rick's hours got cut. Week 8. Why would you charge interest to your mother? Month 3. Silence. The police case sat in a folder like a book no one would read until the ending mattered. So I wrote my own ending. A year in, I had a tight little shop and a waiting list. 2 years in, I found Grandpa's jointer plane at a rummage sale, my initials burned under the tote. The seller blinked when I ran a thumb across the scar. The man who sold it said the owner wouldn't mind. I paid full price and bought him coffee because buying back a life should take time. 3 years slid by, counted in cabinets. Brandon reinvented himself every quarter. Travel vlogs, crypto, carnivore diet. How to build a coffee table with a butter knife. Do not. Mom sent Christmas cards with snowmen and no checks. Rick sent thumbs-up reactions to photos I was tagged in. Then a storm hit in April. Wind peeled shingles, the creek rose. 2 days later, my phone rang with a number I hadn't saved but couldn't forget. Eli? Mom's voice had the cotton softness of someone asking for a favor they swear is tiny. Our porch is sketchy. The steps gave way. Rick bruised his hip. Since the storm, everyone's booked out. Could you, just this once, come by? We'll make it right. I looked at the church closet bench and the envelope labeled paid by me. Then I opened the invoice template Rosa and I named in the fellowship room, the one with the petty title that fits like a glove. I didn't say yes or no. I sent an email. Subject, scheduling and outstanding balance. Attachment, Navarro Woodworks Pro Forma number 67. Header, replacement fee, plus interest for every screw. Lines, outstanding restitution, garage sale conversion, 3 years interest to date. Emergency site assessment, priority queue. Materials deposit, treated stringers, treads, hardware. Bottom, mechanics lien notice, standard if unpaid. Typing bubbles appeared, vanished, and returned. Her reply was one sentence. Do we have to do it like this? I typed back. Boundaries are stairs. You sold mine. I rebuilt them. This is how you use them. 10 minutes later my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. Hey, Brandon said, faux casual. About that invoice, could we brand this? Family Fixes Past Mistakes, sponsored by you? I could get you exposure. Buddy, I said. Exposure is what kills hikers. I set the saw fence to 3 5/8. The blade rose, a clean, steady hum. Work doesn't ask for forgiveness. It just lets you keep going. I put them on the schedule like any client, Tuesday 8 a.m., site assessment. No deposit, no demo. Old me brought free labor and a knot. Current me brought a clipboard and a policy. The porch had aged 20 years in 3 days. Punky stringers, split treads, a wobble you could hear. Mom fluttered in the doorway. We tried to brace it with bricks. Bricks under rot are still rot, I said, tapping a tread. They all sank. Permit. New stringers, treads, posts, footings, carriage bolts, flashing. Real handrail. Rick scowled. It was fine until the storm. Rod is a calendar, not a headline, I said, writing. He eyed my clipboard. You build from the minute you arrive? I build from the minute I relearn boundaries, I said. Assessment fee unless you sign. Inside, Mom had coffee and an apology cake shaped like a toolbox. The fondant hammer sagged. Waive the fee? For family? Family is why there's a line item called replacement fee, plus interest for every screw, I said. She winced. Do you have to say it like that? I have to say it like I can live with it. On the porch, I measured, sketched, and set caution tape. When I reached for my stapler, Mom handed me one, my old one, initials scratched in steel. Found this in a drawer, she said. Found, I repeated, and added a credit line in my ledger for miscellaneous returns. Rick peered over my shoulder. What's the damage? Materials deposit, 60%, I said. My rate's page 2. Your restitution is page 1. He flipped. His face moved through the 5 stages of discovering math. You're charging us interest? Since the day of the sale. 0% if you'd started in 30 days. Mom's voice went small. We can give you $300 now and the rest when taxes come. 300 buys screws. I said. Not a porch and not your tab. I can't believe you'd let your mother stand on a broken porch because of paperwork. Rick said. I'd let an inspector red tag it. I said. And I won't put my license on something I can't do properly. Brandon arrived, camera dangling. Content idea. Lose the camera. I said. He kicked a tread. It flexed. He paled. I packed up. Formal estimate by 5. Sign, pay deposit, you're on the calendar. Otherwise, call anyone else. And rope this off. Back at my shop, I typed scope, drawing, spec sheets. Note at the bottom. Because of your outstanding restitution, all funds paid apply to that balance first. Work begins when both deposit and restitution minimums are met. At 4:57 I emailed. 3 minutes later my phone rang. Eli, Mom said, voice trembling. The neighbor's grandson fell through their porch last summer. We'll find the money. Could you at least secure it so we're safe to step outside? Yes, I said. Emergency shoring only. After hours rate. Materials on delivery. It doesn't reduce your balance. Rick got on. You're bleeding us. I'm stopping you from bleeding, I said. Bring cash for shoring. 7 o'clock. Rosa met me with adjustable columns, PT lumber, screws, and joist hangers. We worked by headlamp, braced the worst spans, cut a temp step, and stapled caution tape. Rick hovered with advice that violated 3 codes and gravity. Mom handed a bottle of water with shaky thanks. When we left, the porch stood like a patient stabilized but not healed. I taped a red sheet by the door. Temporary supports. Do not remove. Underneath, smaller print. Boundaries are load-bearing. Mom read that line for a long time. Okay, she whispered. We'll do this your way. In the truck, I exhaled what I'd held since the pegboard went blank. Next morning, a bank transfer hit my account, deposit, materials, and the first real chunk against the invoice with the pettiest, truest title I've ever written. For every screw. Deposits cleared. I pulled a permit and taped the yellow card to their window where everyone could see. Day 1 demo. The porch sighed into the dumpster like a long apology. Brandon filmed from the sidewalk until I held up a sign that said, Day rate for filming me, $. He discovered a new hobby across the street, pacing. Mom hovered with snacks and the nerves of someone who knows a bill is coming. Rick tried to help, carrying boards the wrong way like he was training for a lumber obstacle course. I gave him the safest task, count screws. Why? He asked. So you understand why interest adds up, I said. We set footings, laser level bobbing like a tiny moon. Posts stood true. Stringers took shape, treads followed. I routed the handrail until it felt like a handshake. When the sun slid behind the house, the skeleton of a real porch stood there saying, See? This is how you do it. Neighbors drifted by with nods. Mrs. Talbot whispered, We bought your clamp tree at the sale and it felt like stealing. It's yours. After work, I said. I'll bring cookies. Day 2, the inspector came, Harrison, who looks like a bar stool but knows the code book by heart. He eyed the flashing and hanger nails. You know what you're doing, he said. Good to see. Mom straightened. That's my son. Harrison pointed at the caution tape. Sign off when you install the graspable rail and guard. And when your homeowner stops telling you how to place joist hangers. Rick sulked. I kept the saw singing. At lunch, Rosa texted a screenshot, Marketplace. Makita Impact Driver, barely used. Posted by a username that rhymed with my cousin's. iMessage. Police report hashtag included. Happy to buy back at your price. 30 minutes later, I had my driver and for dessert my old bit set. I added a cheerful line to Mom's balance, credit, miscellaneous, returns, plus cookies. Day 3, I burned an inch high. EN. Under the bottom step where only spiders would read it. Petty? Absolutely. Also mine. We installed the guard, the rail, and the final tread. I swept the deck the way Grandpa taught me, corners first, then long strokes. It looked simple, which is the hardest thing to build. Then money. I emailed the final invoice for the porch. Separate PDF, updated restitution, applied all payments, credited returns, and compounded interest that morning. At the bottom. Remaining, $3,842.00. Standard mechanics lien will be filed in 7 days if unpaid. Rick called within 3 minutes. You're not putting a lien on my home. It's a public notice that a debt exists, I said. If you pay, it goes away. You wouldn't dare. I didn't dare bill my mother either, I said. Then you sold my life for $2,000. Silence, then Mom's voice small. How do we fix it? Pay, I said not unkindly. Or return what's left. You can sell the camera. A beat. Brandon? She said without muting. I need it for work, he said. Click. Rosa found me staring at my inbox. File the lien if you must, she said. You're protecting the guy who has to make payroll for exactly one employee, you. That night I retrieved the clamp tree from Mrs. Talbot's garage. She'd added one of her own bent nails to my jar. I laughed because the jar clinked like a toast. Day 4, Harrison signed off. The porch was legal, solid, almost smug. I handed Mom a folder, inspection approval, care guide, warranty terms. Maintenance is on the sheet, I said. Wipe standing water. Don't salt. Tighten the rail once a year. She held it like it might bite. And the other, invoice? It's in your email, I said. 7 days. On day 6, the payment didn't come. On day 7, I filled out the lien form and handed it to the clerk with a hand that didn't shake. Boundaries filed. The lien did what speeches never did, it focused them. 2 days later, a transfer arrived with a memo. For every screw. Another came from a pawn shop in Brandon's name. Then a photo from Mom, the camera box, empty. I stamped the ledger paid in full and sent 2 PDFs, the porch warranty and the invoice that started this, title and all. Bottom line, balance $0. 00. I touched the dovetail saw and set the jar of bent nails where the morning light hits every wrong turn I learned from. Before I left their house, I tucked a brass tag under the lowest tread. Rebuilt with boundaries E.N. When the next family favor rings, I'll breathe and send the thing that kept me whole. An invoice.